So I'm here with Jasiri X at the 6th Annual Portland Youth Summit, right?
Yes, exactly.
This is Jasiri's second time back as keynote speaker, is that
Right,
correct?
but then I was in Portland in May, the class on the race, I think that's what it's called. They brought me back for a fundraiser they had, so this is my third time in Portland.
That's awesome. So we're really glad to have you here.
And it's sunny outside.
I know, I think you brought that with you, because when you called me from the airport, Texas, whatever, it was raining.
It was raining, right.
Yes,
right.
so I prayed for sunshine today.
Okay.
All right, so we were talking just a little bit about what's been going on in Occupy Pittsburgh and what kind of a response that you've been getting from the DA and local law enforcement when you guys show up.
Well, yeah, I was talking about a situation where Occupy Pittsburgh joined with an organization called the APA, which is headed by a brilliant young woman named Brandy Fisher. And the APA came out of a case where Jordan Miles, a young honor student, was brutally beaten by the Pittsburgh police to the point where his mom didn't recognize him, had his dreadlocks pulled out of his hair, and so we began to rally around that. This is one of the reasons that I support Occupy Pittsburgh, because before the Occupy movement, many of those activists that then went on to form Occupy Pittsburgh were with us to help organize around to make sure Jordan Miles got justice. And so when recently on the anniversary of his beating, January 14th, they marched to the courthouse. Normally, they would just allow the APA to go up into the courthouse, go up to the DA's office. But when they heard Occupy Pittsburgh was coming with the DA, and I guess somebody might have even said we're going to occupy the DA's office. I don't think maybe like facetiously.
Sure.
But to law enforcement, when they hear Occupy, they get shook. And so they didn't even allow them to even stay inside the building. This is a city-county building. They said, you have to leave. Like, well, we're part of the city and county. I mean, this should be our building. They're like, no, you all have to leave. And it was such a more increased military formation that the police did. But I think this is what happens when it comes to the Occupy movement. So at that time, Occupy Pittsburgh had, we went to court and lost to occupy land that's owned by Mellon Bank.
Right.
And so then recently, what Occupy Pittsburgh did, which I thought was very intelligent, where they had a rally and they marched out of the occupation. But they left the tents, they built the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
And so when the police showed up the next day, the sheriff's office with 60 officers, nobody was there. Everybody had left. And so they kind of got rickrolled. But one of my, I guess, one of the moments that really meant a lot to me was when we had the rally outside the courthouse, when Occupy Pittsburgh was going to court. I actually performed on the steps of the courthouse. About 400 people were there in downtown Pittsburgh, and so that was a really, really cool experience for me. But like I said, I lent my support to them because before it was Occupy Pittsburgh, whenever we had things that were happening in our community, they always came and lent support to us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little about the work you're doing with One Hood and Occupy the Hood.
Wow, yeah. One Hood, actually, we started in 2005, and it was a response to the violence that we saw happen in our community. And we wanted to do something. We were all like a group of young activists, but we all came from these different, religious backgrounds. I'm Muslim, other brothers are Christian, other brothers are Reverend, one guy was an atheist into politics. My friend Paradise, the architect from X-Clan, is a black nationalist. But we basically said, well, look, regardless of what our philosophies,
Sure.
like our children are dying, or they're getting sent to prison, it's a state of emergency, let's put all that on the back burner and let's come together. And a lot of times in the black community, we talk unity for young people, but as adults, we don't get along.
all have this stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
we argue amongst ourselves, and so we wanted to show the young youth of Pittsburgh that we could come together in unity. And we began to use hip-hop as a way to bring different neighborhoods and communities together that didn't normally come together. And out of that came, the new Media Academy, which we just started to teach African-American boys how to create their own media and properly use social networking. And it's been we've been successful in helping to, stem some of the violence that's been happening in our community. And then when Occupy the Hood, when I heard about Occupy the Hood on Twitter, I think somebody's just like, "Do you know about Occupy the Hood?" And I started following them. I got a direct message from the co-founder, Y.O.U.th., who I had met maybe about a year and a half ago. She's like, "Do you remember me? This is Y.O.U.th. I met you in Atlanta." I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, this is us." And so I ended up going to New York and meeting Malik Rasan, who founded Occupy the Hood. And then he came to Pittsburgh, and he was just such a real person. And I saw him as somebody that sincerely wanted to help our community. Like, he wasn't interested in media attention. He was interested in, when the spotlight is on Occupy, we want to make sure that the Black and brown community's interests are represented. And I really like that about him. And so, I've been, working with Occupy the Hood as well to help, now it's in 20 cities, and to just help, find out, I guess, develop our agenda and make sure that when we're negotiating, and I think the Occupy movement has to be very deliberate about making sure that Black and brown people are not just in the crowd, but are involved in the decision-making process. And if we're not ready, there has to be some type of training process in which to get our community represented, because if it's just tokenism, then it's like anything else, Democrats, Republicans. So it has to be a deliberate attempt, and I think Occupy the Hood is a group that can help with that.
We have a chapter here in Portland, don't we?
I don't know, but if so, Occupy the Hood Portland, get at me, Hopefully I can get at them,
Yeah, I'd like to see it Occupy the Hood at Houston. That's where I'm from.
Okay,
originally.
yeah.
They could use some of that unity and love.
I think there is actually something going on in Houston, but I'll be in Houston in March, so I guess I can maybe see.
Yeah. Was he giving you
5 minutes.
Okay. So, wanted to talk a little bit about your website and where people can find you, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Jasiri, and that's JAS, as in Sam, IRIX, .com. I'm Jasiri _X on Twitter and Facebook. It's .com /JasiriX official.
Wonderful.
And you could, and definitely, I think that to me, social networking is, that's one of the ways that the Occupy movement really won. The intelligent use of social networking. And so, shout out to the cameraman.
That's right.
It doesn't work without you.
Yes. And last but not least, a lot of the live streams have adopted "Film the Police"
Yes.
as our theme song.
Yeah.
What was it like working with Strange Famous Records and Sage? And go way back, 90s heroes for me.
Yes. Sage is a legend in the game. He's an underground legend, and he actually saw a video I did about Oscar Grant.
Yeah, we're talking about
his murder, and he hit me up, and we started communicating, and he asked me did I want to be on a song with B. Dolan, who at the time I didn't know, but when I began to research B. Dolan as an artist, this dude's a phenomenal. I was like, of course. And so we ended up doing "Film the Police." We did the song probably about a year ago, and it's just funny how you do something, and it came into such strong fruition, especially during Occupy. So we shot the video recently, and it was put out. I thought it was beautifully done, and then we updated "After Police" and made it into a modern time. And it really, this is how people, and our community's been talking about police brutality, but I think what we're seeing now that's different is this increased militarization of the police department. People not wanting to show their badge number,
Red covering them up,
right? And it's like, wasn't this protect and serve? Like, when did protect and serve become now to squash out or oppress people that want to express their voices, which is guaranteed in the Constitution? I think that's one of the real critical issues, as we go forward. Like you were mentioning, the Indefinite Detention Act, and it's all of this legislation now coming out that I believe is a direct response to the organization of the Occupy movement.
Yes.
And I think we have to get more organized. I heard somebody is running for mayor here.
Yeah, Cameron Whitman
from the Occupy movement.
Yeah.
I definitely think we need to do more things like that to be actively involved in those processes.
Well, and we're having, just in the last, we had a solidarity march with Oakland, anti-police brutality march,
right.
and had people slammed to the ground in the crosswalk, tackled by 20 or more cops, and arrested for a $26 jaywalking ticket. One of them, I believe, was a 15-year-old
Wow.
teenager.
Wow.
So, I mean, things, like you said, have really ramped up and taken on this very militaristic tone, and, direct positive response needs to be.
Right, and like you said, I think we have to be very strategic about the next steps. But it was just interesting, and that's what I talk about in the song "Occupy We the '99," about when we saw this happening in Libya and Egypt. You had President Obama, was very outspoken, and
Hillary
now,
Clinton.
right, when it happens in the United States,
Yeah,
nothing.
not a peep.
And I think that, as we go to the voting booths, we have to be intelligent even about how we move to these next steps. Because, I mean, we're really seeing almost like a new American Revolution. And, even though the Tea Party trying to adopt that, we're seeing that the real movement is coming from people in the Occupy movement.
We're going to keep it coming, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for taking time.
Thank
with
you.
us.
I appreciate it.
it.
Occupy Portland, man. Thank you.
Occupy Portland.